Hey everybody, welcome to 30 Ways to Happy Days. I am Alana Yvonne from Truly Great Life, and we are on way number 18. So, way number 18 is the character strength of spirituality. Now, if you haven't been listening to the others, I highly recommend you go back at least to ways number 1 and 2 because they are kind of foundational. Excuse me, but we're going to jump right in with spirituality. And as I do with the other ways, we'll start with the definition, okay? So again, coming from the positive psychology lens, if you will, we can define or describe spirituality, and I'm sure already a lot of things have popped into your head as to what that means to you, but it is connecting with the sacred, okay? It can be purpose, meaning, faith. It can be religion, right? It can be a sense of being connected to something greater than and outside of yourself, right? It is having coherent and specific beliefs about the nature of the universe or the world or the meaning of the universe or the world. It can be having these certain beliefs around purpose. I should say your higher purpose, right? It could be also your beliefs about a higher power. It's a sense of knowing where you fit in or where your life fits into kind of the bigger picture, how you fit into the larger scheme, if you will. And it is having these beliefs around the meaning of life, okay? I'm just thinking of, I'm blanking out right now. I'm just thinking of Monty Python's Meaning of Life, but we won't go down that. You can watch that on your own time. But having beliefs about the meaning of life, okay, that give you comfort. It shapes how you behave based on those understandings of, your understanding of how the world works and how you fit into it and kind of what your purpose is within that. And it also gives you some comfort, right, when things are challenging. So it's interesting, right? We've been doing this series of 30 Ways to Happy Days. And because they are based on, I think, over 2,500 years of philosophy and religion, in addition to what science has found, social sciences, philosophy, have you been getting comfort from these ways? Has learning about, we're on to 18 right now, but there's a whole big handful of ways that we've gone through so far, and are you finding that they provide some kind of comfort as you go through your day and whatever challenges you are dealing with in your own life, whether it's personally, professionally, relationship-wise, family-wise, if you have kids, a partner, whatever it is, are you finding some comfort in the different ways that we've discussed? And I hope that maybe if it's, even inching like a little smidgen to more comfort, or a little smidgen to more room to breathe, or feeling like, you have tools at your disposal to help you get through to, I call it a happier day, but whatever that is, a little more ease, a little bit more sense of well-being. All right. So for simplicity's sake, for the rest of this recording, let's just say spirituality is that connection with the sacred, or if that feels a little too religious or woo-woo for you, a connection to, a sense of meaning within the bigger picture, or a connection to something greater than yourself, which is, if you look at 1 and 2, that ties into one of the ingredients in the formula for well-being, which is a sense of meaning. So spirituality is definitely tied, to this. So one of the things I want to share from the research, okay, that has to do with spirituality is that it is directly linked with compassion. And these things, again, a lot of these ways that I'm sharing, if they seem obvious, awesome. This is a reminder of them in case you were like, oh, I know this. I just forgot about it, or I didn't think about using it this way. And if this is new for you or new to you, then great. Yay, something new that was learned today that I can take forward. So this is not, a lot of what I'm sharing is going to kind of seem obvious for many of you, right? Which is great, because this is based on wisdom that has been around for a very long time, and it's just being kind of from a positive psychology standpoint. I understand within different religions or within different philosophies or different structures, this may all be old hat, but this is just another way to present it. And so take it for what it's worth. It's just another bit of information that you can choose to use to make your day a little bit better. So spirituality, it's connected with compassion. It's connected with volunteerism, philanthropy, right? A lot of people are finding ways to give of, whether it's financial or their time or even a kind word, right? If it's tied into a belief that we are connected to other people in ways maybe we can't see, or maybe we are connected to the bigger picture on earth in ways we cannot see, then our actions, even if it's as one individual, can make a difference, right? Can tip the scales towards goodness or towards a better outcome or towards hope or whatever it is. So even that kind word, or even holding the door for maybe an older person struggling to hold the door. I don't know, you can think of a million ways to just do good, right? But if you have that spirituality strength, and again, we all have it, it's like muscles, these 24 character strengths I'm sharing with you, we all have them. Some of them may be latent, wasted away from disuse, if you will, but it's there, and it's about how do we use it just a little bit. And what happens when we work out and we haven't worked out in a while? Sometimes we get a little sore. Sometimes it feels a little uncomfortable. So some of these ways to happy days may feel a little awkward or a little uncomfortable or don't resonate, and that's totally fine. And the question is, does it interest you or make you curious enough or like intrigue you enough that you're like, nah, let's try it and see how it feels and see what happens, and with more use, does it get more comfortable? So the thing about spirituality, especially if you tie it or connect it to religion or think of it in terms of religion, it can make a lot of people uncomfortable, especially if they maybe were raised in a religion that they have then left or felt conflicted by, or if they have ideas about religion. And again, if we look for the negative, we will find it, right? We've talked about this before. We are wired to see the negative. So when it comes to spirituality and religion, if you want to find your proof points as to why it's bad or has caused this, you will find things to back up your argument. So I'm offering here the, idea that, again, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. What within organized religion, either that you grew up with or that you've been exposed to or that you're curious about, what is something you can learn from it? Or what is something that you see consistently even in different religions or different spiritual practices? And what is something there that you feel like I could take that little baby step and incorporate it into my life? Right? And if not, then is it something that, phrasing it in terms of the universe or Mother Nature or humanity, I don't know, whatever works for you. But again, it's about a sense of meaning, the bigger picture. How do you fit into it? It's again knowing that you matter. We talked in one of the earlier recordings about this idea from Jewish tradition of like you have two pockets, and in one pocket is a note that the world was created just for me. All right, and that's to get you through the hard times. Like, you are here because you matter, right? This is coming from a more Kabbalistic approach. And then in the other pocket is like, I am nothing but dust. I'm nothing but dust and ashes. This idea of like, you are, to stay humble and to remember that you are also one of many. You can take it that way, right? It's like you matter, and you are also one of many. So a spiritual kind of approach to how do you fit in is like not to take yourself for granted, not to take your life for granted. How do you make meaning out of it? What gives you meaning in it? Whether that's from something more organized or something that's on something that you've, just developed over time or are looking to find comfort in and give you a structure, right? For making sense of this sometimes super wacky world we live in that doesn't seem to have any structure or like sense, okay? So what is that for you? And then also, can you recognize that that's also for others, right? And that it's not just like about you, it's also about you and others, right? Everyone is like a world, okay? That's another thing from like Jewish tradition, this idea of like a person is like a world. So one who saves a life, it's as if they've saved a whole world. And that's tied to this idea of like people connected to other people in relationship someone literally can become the whole, your whole world for them. We're all having touch points in many different ways through our work and our personal life and our relationships, and we matter in ways we may not appreciate. So again, where are you with this strength of spirituality, this sense of being connected, the sense of having a sense of whether it's a higher power or being connected to something greater than yourself, whether it's through your religion or a philosophy or a spiritual practice or a community, what is that for you, and how much structure and meaning and comfort does it give you? And if you're like, it stresses me out more than it's comforting me, then is that something for you to kind of explore? Something to play with, something to tweak. There are 1,000,001 ways to be connected to a sense of a greater purpose. And that's an invitation for you to kind of think about, how do you want to get meaning out of your life, and what structures are in your life right now, and how can you either go deeper with them or be open to different ways of experiencing them. Just things to think about. Okay. The other thing I wanted to share from the research about spirituality is that use of the spirituality muscle, okay, has been found to be associated with lower levels of marital conflict, greater spousal support, more support with your spouse or your partner or, whoever, more support for that significant other in your life. This one's interesting. More consistent parenting, okay? Meaning your approach in dealing with the kids, maybe when you have to discipline them, is a little more consistent as opposed to like scattered all over, like one day a little more yelly, let's say, and another time very calm and whatever. So it's interesting that spirituality is tied to that. And also more supportive relationships between kids and parents. So just some interesting data from the research. So what is most important to you in life? Okay? And why do you care about those things? Right? Things to think about when it comes to your spirituality muscle. Like for you, what does it mean to be a good person? What kind of mark do you want to leave on the world? And there's a lot of talk about change the world. We are not talking big here. I mean, yes, if you have the reach and the ability to impact on a larger scale, that's cool, that's great. And if you feel called to that, yay. But if we, like we just said, one person is a world. So who's one person or one cause that you can impact, that you can tilt towards a better outcome? Right? What is one way that you can help one person? And you've heard of the phrase like paying it forward, or the ripple effect, or the butterfly effect. Like, we don't need to minimize small acts because they can have a huge impact. Just a quick example, I was at Costco last week, and if you've been to a Costco or maybe like a BJ's, these like gigantic warehouse shopping centers where you have a membership. And anyway, so I'm in line to pay, and the people who were scanning the items and packing up the items were kind of talking like, I've never seen such a thing, or this or that. And I was like, and they shared that two people ahead of me, this person had walked up to the person in front of her and asked if she could pay for his groceries. And it was like a $200 Costco bill. And she explained that, at her work earlier in the week or whatever, someone had done some kind of similar kindness, right? Paid for something for her or left a big tip, whatever it was, that she wanted to pay it forward. And so she offered to pay this guy's whole Costco bill. Usually when you go to Costco, the bill's pretty high. So the people working there were like exclaiming that they had never seen someone pay for such a big bill before, in addition to their own bill, and that they were then excited to go pay for someone else's something. Like one of the guys was like, I'm gonna get coffee and I'm gonna pay for someone's coffee. And so one can say that this person who kind of started it was using her muscle of spirituality, this sense of being connected to more than just herself, right? So that's one example in real life of using that muscle of spirituality, even if she wasn't necessarily thinking of it in terms of, I'm using my muscle of spirituality, right? But it gives me a sense of meaning. I'm feeling connected to strangers, like to humanity, to this idea that our small actions totally turned my day around. Like whatever someone had done for her at her work, like a tip or whatever it was, totally changed her trajectory for the rest of the day. Her mood was better. She felt seen and appreciated by like a total stranger or whatever it was. And then she was motivated to take action to do a kind deed for someone else. And then that just led to other people, right? And then I was like, okay, I how do I get on this bandwagon? It was cool. So that's kind of like a real example. And I would say, what does it mean to be a good person? Someone who was the recipient of that goodness and finds a way, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, finds a way to do an act of goodness moving forward. That's a good person, right? I would say that qualifies for sure. That was an act of goodness. Here's another question to think about. Like, what kind of person do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to become? We don't have to wait for New Year. Like, every day is a new year, if you will. Every day we wake up, we have the choice to like be that best self we're trying to be. We talked about how these ways are ways to being that ideal self or that best self. It doesn't mean we're going to always get there. It doesn't mean we're always going to achieve it, but we can try. And in the trying, we're connected to that vision. And that's a structure or a belief of how we want to be, which is then being witnessed by others, right? Depending on what you're doing or who's in your life. And that, you may not even know it, but it could be inspiring others. And I would say that's a spiritual practice too. How can I be a better person today? Or how can I be more mindful today about something that usually I'm on automatic? Okay? So again, also, these are like the big questions, but like, why are we here? Right? What's your sense of purpose? Right? And if you woke up this morning and you're watching this or you're listening to this, like, it's not a mistake that you're here. That's my personal spiritual belief. I'm going to share it. I stand by it. Even if it's as simple as like going through your day. I don't know what is going on a spiritual level there. And let's say you don't interact with anybody, but maybe you're creating something that will benefit someone down the road, or maybe there's a phone call you make, or I don't know, just can you make some meaning out of it? Right? Can you find some meaning out of it? Maybe you have a pet. Taking care of that pet, keeping that pet alive, that is not insignificant, right? And that gives a lot of meaning and comfort, right? If animals is something that you find your connection to a greater picture, God knows there's tons of animals that need, attention. Or if it's your own pet, you are, a lot of things we learn from our pets. So, okay. And then what's your idea of a higher power? All right. That's something that a lot of people have a lot of opinions on, but I would just throw that out there to encourage you to think about it. And I would also say, if your gut reaction is like, psh, no, just can you hold some space to question that? Why the visceral response? I'm not saying I know what's true, right? I'm not saying I know the ultimate truth. I know what I believe, but if there's a visceral, like, gut response, if it's an emotional, heated, hot response, there's a reaction, what is under that? And is that something that you're ready to look at? And if not, that's cool. But if there's an emotional reaction, there's something there, right? If it's a very, like, even keel, rational response, then maybe there isn't as much there it isn't triggering something in you, right? So when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to religion, when it comes to the idea of a higher power or God, like, this is stuff that has caused lots of problems in the world. But that does not mean it's not worth wrestling with, okay? That does not mean there isn't truth there. It just means these are things that cause a lot of people take their sense of meaning very seriously, and for good reason. I would just say, are you hurting anyone in doing it? How can we use that sense of spirituality to be more kind overall, right? And it's a balance. I'm not going to get in, too deep into this, but it's a balance between, let's say, the judgment and the love, right? the kindness, and the righteousness. I don't know, there's a lot of things in here, but in any case, spirituality, that's what we're using. How can you use it today? How are you connected to something that gives you meaning, a greater sense of, purpose? You're here for a reason. Your beliefs, make your life important. It's a structure. They're strong. You're connecting to something larger than yourself. All right. So I just want to say that, with all of the things that make it maybe challenging for us to have happy days, or things that help us stumble, in addition to one of the earlier ways that we talked about, which was perspective and perseverance, and lots of others, and we have more coming up, spirituality, even if you cannot prove that what you believe is true, you can look for your proof points again. But if it's giving you comfort in a way that is not at the expense of someone else, that's my caveat for you, think about that. But if it's giving you comfort, structure, community, again, relationships, big one. So having that spiritual community can be a humongous support and way to have a happy day, because it's giving you connection in a way that is meaningful and tying you to your bigger picture and your sense of what is true and your sense of what is important and real and purposeful outside of just your own little experience. So yeah, lots here. I'm going to throw out one hack I use. I've talked before about music, the importance of music, how much I think music can be a structure that helps us use these certain ways for happy days. So if you're choosing music that is, more positive, let's just say that, then that's something I've mentioned several times. But what I want to mention here is, probably the biggest theme for music is love songs, right? And depending on where you are in a relationship, you might be super annoyed anytime you hear a love song, or you might be like, yes, and basking in that. But one thing I started doing a couple of years ago, and this might sound a little kooky, but I'm just going to throw it out there, is if you listen to love songs, depending on the love song, as if it's God or higher power or universe or whatever you want to call, I call it God, I say God, but whatever, this idea of the universe, higher power, something greater than you, spirit, creator, whatever works, okay? That it's that higher power is singing to you. Because you're still here. So I would say you're here for a reason. But when you want that little boost and you reframe the singer to higher power singing to you, it can be pretty powerful. So I'm gonna throw that out as some fun work, if you will, to try, and just hear the next love song, okay? And I'm not talking crass. I know there's a lot of crass kind of graphic stuff. I'm talking about the more cheesy kind of love songs, that are out there. And just think of it from a standpoint of a creator singing to you, a beloved, created human being who's here for a reason. So that's it. Spirituality. Good stuff, in my humble opinion. And I hope if you were a little skeptical, that maybe you're a little more curious about what it can do for you and what it can mean for you. But again, just that sense of meaning. Okay, what's giving you meaning. So thanks for joining, and I will see you for the next way next time.